world has changed. America has changed. If something were to happen tomorrow, how self-sufficient would you be? Could you grow your own food? Could you sustain your own livestock? Could you survive? This is the We Grow Our Show with Nick and Don. Nick and Don talk about everything from politics to planting. They cover techniques, methods, and tips on how to not only survive, but thrive. Visit the website at WeGrowOurs.com. Lock and load. This is the We Grow Our Show. Get your grow on.
Get your grow on.
Yeah.
Took me a second.
Yeah.
I had a pause there. I love that intro, and it just gets stuck in my head. So,
are we ever going to get tired of it?
No, I don't think so. Because I have it on my iPad or my iPod. And just listen to it sometimes.
Oh my gosh, I should get it set as my ringtone so when people call, like, lock and load.
I'm doing that. The lock and load. There you go. Get your grow on.
America is changing. No,
America
has changed. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it is changing. I'll give you that, Nick.
Did we figure it out? Is that the film strip flapping in the background? Or is it boots marching?
No, it's a film strip.
See,
that's what I figured out.
Okay, you did figure that out.
That's what I figured out. Now maybe you figured something else out.
Because I hear it and I think like troops in the street just marching through the neighborhood.
I can see that. I do see that. So we had our first live show, on Monday on prepperbroadcasting.com. I had fun. You did most of the talking as usual. No, it was your show.
All right.
You know about gasification. Trust me, I'm stuck in a studio with him. He knows a lot about gasification. So
sympathy laugh, folks. Sympathy laugh.
So it was fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was cool to talk to people online as well as record the show. I'm not much of a multitasker, and if you listen,
you could see the hunt and pecking because you would talk at the same time you were typing.
You could hear the my fat German fingers don't know how to work a keyboard.
No, I thought it was fun. I got to see the chat a little bit, but, I had the family was out and coming in, and I had to go, tuck myself away because we were doing that one via phone, and it gets loud in my house with a couple of boys and a couple of dogs and a couple of goats. The goats aren't in the house. They're outside. Just for the record there.
It's a crazy family. And Gertrude.
Nice. We do have quail in the house right now.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's funny because it's not, you don't smell them, you don't really hear them or anything.
We keep things clean.
Well, okay.
You hear them. They tweet. And I always know when they're hatching because I hear them out of the incubator.
Oh, okay.
So you can hear them hatching and, they peeping, I guess they call that.
Peeping.
Yeah. Because we're hatching about 30 a week.
Yeah, that's some high numbers there.
It's not bad. It's,
how many eggs are you consuming?
We don't. I haven't been,
I don't,
well, that's not true. I grab usually maybe 10 a week max and we hard boil them and then I throw them into the pickling jar and I'll pickle them. A sweet pickle with a little, and I got, all my hot peppers from the aquaponic garden. I put those in there with a little bit of dill and a little sugar and white vinegar and let them pickle for a little while. It's good. So maybe 10 a week, but we've been not even at this point. We get on average of 45 to 50 eggs.
Okay.
We're putting about 40 in the incubator because it holds 2 rows.
And 10 of those just end up not being.
Yeah, 10 of those it depends. We're getting 75, 80% hatch rates from what I can tell.
That's not bad.
We'll end up, if 35 of them hatch, we'll lose 5 of them in the first 48 hours. I have no idea. I haven't figured out exactly why yet. So our hatch rate seems a little low to me, but I'm not sure what it's supposed to be. I got to talk to Scott Yarish about that and find out.
That actually sounds pretty good. I've had a lot of people complaining that their hatch rates are around 50%.
They were until I put the auto egg turner in.
Oh.
And see, what I did is I got one of those little Hobovators or Little Giants, same basic thing. We've got 2 of them. One has the automatic egg turners. So every 2 weeks they get taken out at 14 days. We do it every Sunday and they go into the other incubator, which is just a still air and I put a lot of cotton and sponges in there to keep that humidity level up. And they go in there for the last 3 days.
And that's where
they stay for they don't move and they stay for about 24 hours after they hatch, 12 hours or so. And then we put them in the brooding box And then they go, after about 2 weeks, they'll go outside, depending on the weather. They go outside into 2 other boxes and into the 3 cages. So, it's a lot of fun. So,
Well, cool.
I didn't know we were doing a show on quail.
No, but I'm
Look at
glad
that.
that happened. I feel educated.
Good for you. Well, you raise them too, or do you just buy them when they're young?
I just buy them. I'm focusing on rabbits, and I've also got the ducks in the backyard. And
Yeah.
the Muscovies are just so broody that I don't have to worry about them. They just lay their eggs. They sit on their eggs, and if I get near their eggs, they kind of tend to peck at me. So,
Oh yeah, they can be.
So I've
Yeah,
just
we've
been
got a
selling the
couple of them.
ducklings.
Nice. I want one. 2.
1, 2,
A male.
12.
A male. And
Yeah.
if you have some females, I'll take 2 or 3.
Wouldn't we all?
I saw turkeys were for sale the other day at the place, so I haven't decided if I'm going to do turkeys again after my 45-pound Thanksgiving dinner. But I guess I don't have to wait that long either. So they're a messy bird. I don't know if you've done them.
No, I mean, birds in general. I mean, any animal that's pooping and peeing out the same hole, it's going to be a mess.
Yeah, not our chickens, because you've seen, right now I think we're about 20, because we got rid of the other batch. So we're about 20 hens. They're not noisy. They're not messy. They keep my yard, they're all free range out in my yard. They keep the soil turned up. They keep the weeds down in that area. They keep the bugs away. You know, chickens are amazing. And I don't find them messy. The turkeys, we kept them penned a little bit more than we do with the chickens because we wanted them for the meat. And I found that to be a little messier. You know, you got to go in and clean it a lot more often. The only time our chickens are in the coop are at night, and they go in and get on their little roosts and they're sitting there, or they go into their nesting boxes to lay their eggs. So speaking of chickens, hopefully this podcast goes out in time, but SB 1151, guys, please go look on the Facebook.
Yeah. Backyard Farmers United is where all of look it up.
Make those phone calls, send those emails.
In fact, if we can, let's get it in the notes, the link. There was this wonderful compilation written about,
in fact, I'll see if I can get permission to actually put that on as another post.
Okay.
I'll talk to Galen about that, but we definitely need that. The show comes out Friday. We're hoping, this could happen before you guys are listening. So from the time we record to the other, but if it doesn't, go check it out. Backyard Farmers United on Facebook, and we need all the support we can get. Again, no matter where you are, just give them a call, help us support these people, say thank you to the ones that need thanking. And we're going to need to battle later with, asking the governor to go ahead and sign this when we get this thing passed. So there's still a long road, but they've come so far.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that are lacking in education when it comes to this. They're, for lack of a better term, they're ignorant because they refuse to learn the benefits of having chickens next door. Yeah,
and it seems the city of Chandler out here is the one where most of the residents that I've seen that are against things are from Chandler, which this affects maybe 15 to 20% of the population that aren't that are not in HOAs.
Yeah.
This isn't affecting HOAs right now.
No,
and,
not at
and
all.
the people in HOAs are the ones complaining about it. So come on.
Exactly. And then what's the League of Extraordinary A-holes? Is that what they go by?
we're not going to even go there. We're going to be nice.
No.
Let's leave that one alone.
You stomp on my freedoms, I'm going to stomp back. America.
Exactly. So, also a follow-up to the show when we had Sylvia on, she announced that, Aquaponic Fest in August. Looks like it's going to be amazing. It's in
She did confirm it then?
Yeah, it's in, I think, Longmont. I can't remember the name.
You look
of
at
the
me
town,
like
though.
I know. I have no idea.
I thought maybe you did.
No,
it's a
I'm not that
long
smart.
drive from here, but I'm hoping to get up. And I know we've got the Jackalope Freedom Festival, so one of those two things is going to have to go on the back burner. I'm an aquaponics guy, so if it comes down to going and seeing Sylvia, I just don't know if I can get that 15, 16 hour drive in or not. So we're going to have to we'll keep posted, but go to Sylvia's website and take a look.
I have to admit, I think I want to go to the aquaponics thing just because the shorthand version of the Jackalope Fest, people are calling it the Jack Fest.
Oh, come
on.
on.
And I'm not
now.
going there because it scares me.
No, it's going to be an amazing event. I haven't been. I know Ernie Hancock is going to that.
Okay.
Leo is going to that. If anybody's gone to Prepper Fests out here, they know Leo. And
oh my gosh. I thought I was over the top. That guy, I love Leo because he just tells it how it is. I'm trying to sugarcoat stuff and try and remain a closet semi-anarchist guy. Leo's just out there. He's just like, no, screw rules and regulation. What right do they have over me?
That's
and
right.
you got to respect a guy that's just willing to put it out there for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So he's got rabbits and quail as well. So I'll give him a shout out. He's been a good friend. So
yeah. He's, so I know he's going up there. There's a lot of people they asked if, we'd get on the going list and kind of confirm up. I don't know yet. So that's the answer. So, the Jackalope Freedom Festival, go take a look at that and check out, the aquaponicsource.com. The aquaponicstore.com is Sylvia's other site, but, she has information at this point posted. I know I got it in the newsletter. So, if you guys are in Colorado, go check that out. It's going to be a phenomenal time. I know that one. And speaking of rules and regulations, did you know that if you fill out a form on the old ATF website, that you can actually brew 100,000 gallons of your own fuel in your own garage or backyard or wherever you decided to do that, preferably not next to your hot water heater?
Yes. Today we are going to be talking with an expert in making alcohol. His name is Bill Alexander, and he's been moonshining, if you will, but legally.
That's right.
I guess moonshining actually is the term used for somebody making alcohol illegally. So he's not exactly moonshining. He's just making booze.
Every time somebody says moonshine, I think Dukes of Hazzard. I don't know why, but the General Lee comes to my mind.
Oh yeah, it's just rednecks and flammable stuff, man. That's heritage.
I watched that show so much growing up. It was like I wanted a General Lee so bad.
Oh yeah. My first go-kart I finished, I painted it orange, and there wasn't a space I could put an 01 on it, so I got an orange helmet, and with black electrical tape, I put an 01 on the side of the helmet. Nice. That one I ended up crashing through the garbage cans because the brakes went out at 50.
Well, see, that's something that would happen on the show, and then you go jump a river.
Next episode, see if the Duke boys can make it over the creek.
I wonder how many cars. I had a chance to buy one of the originals of the Barrett Jackson, and it went for like hundreds of dollars, not thousands.
Really?
Yeah, it was one of the originals. It was signed by the cast members. And
was it all bottomed out?
No, it was because it wasn't a jumped car.
Oh, okay.
It was one that they actually drove. And so it was really decent shape and everything. And it needed to be rebuilt as far as the engine goes. I mean, it wasn't pretty under the hood.
Did it come with the horn?
It did. It came with the horn, the whole thing. This is Barrett Jackson back in the 90s. And like 2 years later, the next movie came out. The Dukes of Hazzard movie came out. And that car ended up selling for a fortune. I saw that somebody sold one, either that one or one just like it.
Now you're like a member of the shoulda, woulda, coulda tribe.
I know.
Right there.
They had a top fuel dragster that same year at Barrett Jackson that I could have bought for thousands of dollars as an under 10 and run it on alcohol. Speaking of distilling, I would have something to do with all this stuff I'm going to be brewing in my garage. So yeah, shoulda, woulda, coulda. So we met Bill at the AZ Prepper Fest.
That's right.
And I was impressed by his stills. Those things are cool.
Oh yeah, it's like something came off the spaceship. It's all shiny, bright, stainless steel, this, and it just looks so complicated when you're looking at it. But actually, I take that back. It's got like 2 or 3 little knobs on it.
Looks like a pressure cooker to me with a lamppost attached. I don't know.
Yeah, and then he's got one that's a little bit, the upper end model that actually has multiple points of condensation, and you can actually see into it through the looking glass. This thing's just awesome. For any of you out there, go to alcoholmakers.com, and we're going to get into it here with Bill, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what he has to say. This week we've got Bill Alexander on the phone with us, and we're going to be talking about the glory of alcohol. Solving all the world's problems one drink at a time, right, Bill?
That's correct. That's a good way of looking at it. My approach has always been towards ethanol as a gas, but there's a few people throughout the world that have had a few sips of it from time to time and treat it totally different.
Well, you're talking to a non-drinker. I had to explain to members of my church why I was making alcohol. They didn't quite get the correlation between running a vehicle on it and working with alcohol. It's obviously got the connotation of being the drunkard's brew,
Wow, because when I told my church and my friends, they all asked what my address was, so they come over. So we hang out with a different crowd, don't we? Hey, Bill, we met you at the AZ Prepper Fest, and I was really impressed with the workmanship of your product. So before we get into all the details with the gas and all this, I got to give you props. They are absolutely beautiful. The craftsmanship and everything on it is phenomenal. But I have a question. Do you make drinking alcohol out of this, or is it just for fuel? Because I don't know anything about it. So,
well, basically, you can do both, but you need a permit from the federal government if you're going to make spirits. It's called a distiller's license, and it's the same license that all of the liquor companies throughout the United States has. It requires a bond that says that you will pay the federal tax on it, and you go from there. Now, there's another kind of an unknown law floating around, since we are all residents of Arizona, and I'm not too sure if this broadcast is going to go outside of the perimeters of Arizona, so you'll need to check with your own tax law. But in Arizona, there is a law that says that anybody can make 200 gallons of beer, providing there's 2 adults in the household. So if there's only one that's over 21, you could only make 100 gallons. You can also make 200 gallons of wine, and you can make 200 gallons of spirits.
Huh.
So we get the authority through this if you go to the Arizona Department of Liquor Licenses, and right on their front page, right out of the chute, the first paragraph, it simply states what I just stated, that you can make 200 gallons of spirits, pure 100% ethanol. However, you cannot sell it. It's for your personal consumption. It's for a gift at Christmas time. And right now there's over 2 million home brewers throughout the United States that's making beer in their garage. Somewhere, someplace, everybody runs across somebody that makes their own beer.
Yeah, I've done it.
Yep. And once you master that, guess what the next level is? The next step is making ethanol. But a strange thing happens when you get into a little bit of research. You realize just how important that commodity is for things beyond just drinking. It can fuel your car. It can fuel your generator. It can light up the darkness. So these are really things that give me cold chills going in my back when I think about it. And it's a remarkable commodity. We're very dependent upon oil from foreign resources. Everybody knows what happens when OPEC goes nuts and goes crazy. They turn around and raise the prices. And about a year and a half ago, we saw $5 a gallon gasoline in California. So if there's another war that breaks out in the Middle East, if Iran, Iraq, if somebody develops a really bad piece of weaponry and decides to take out, let's say Israel, the supply of gasoline is going to be a huge shortage, and we're going to have worse gas lines than we had than back in 1972.
Well, I have to admit, I don't remember that back that far, but
well, not many people do. It's 42 years ago, but
I wasn't on this planet yet.
Yeah, most people weren't, but a few of us old timers stood in line for a half a day to get a maximum of 5 gallons of gasoline. So by making your own, guess what? You're the only guy on the block that's got his own gas station. So this becomes a commodity if things do go bad. And the preppers are saying, look, we're not sitting around waiting for the end of the world. We're just going to be prepared. And some of these church groups that we talked about earlier that are so anti-drinking alcohol and getting drunk, and I certainly can subscribe to that philosophy, they still encourage everybody to put away 6 months, 9 months, a year's worth of food. But one thing that they have forgotten to put on their list is you really should have an ample supply of fuel or ethanol or gasoline, which is going to be hard. That goes flat after about 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
So ethanol doesn't. Actually, it ages like a fine wine, and it gets better with time. So you can store this stuff in a 60-gallon wood barrel that you could buy for $100 from one of these vineyards and let it sit for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And what you have, if you do that, is something like, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of these 21-year-old scotches that sell for $100 a bottle. Oh, yeah. But that's kind of what you got. But it'll also fuel your generator. It'll run your freezer. And my wife tells me that after about 3 days without electricity to your freezer, all of the food inside kind of goes south and starts to spoil. So you'll be the only one on the block also that has your refrigerator running, your freezer running, and possibly even air conditioning running if you're in the summer. And it's very easy to make this stuff. The moonshiners use corn to make it. The guys who make it homemade beer use barley. I make it with just plain sugar. I take a shortcut. And that goes because of the principles of making it. A still cannot make alcohol. Only yeast can make that. And others might say only God can make that. But I take a little bit of shortcut. I go down to Costco. I buy 100-pound bags of sugar. I throw it in a 55-gallon drum. I fill it up with water, which takes maybe 42, 43 gallons of water. I throw in a handful of yeast, let it sit for about 3.5 days. When it stops bubbling, I have my feedstock ready to pour in and make ethyl alcohol. And it's very, very easy with a still.
Let me stop you there and ask the question. Yep. Do you have to, you mixed it up, it's sitting there 3 days later, it stopped bubbling, so the yeast has consumed all of the food, has consumed all of the sugar, and has ceased making alcohol. The reaction has stopped. Can you seal that and leave it sit there for any amount of time, or does it need to be distilled right away in order to get the alcohol out of it?
Well, it's a multi-pronged question and a multi-pronged answer.
Okay.
We have wild spore floating on everything, just in the air, on an apple, on peaches. There is wild yeast. So if it attacks the what I call sugar wash that's sitting there, it could you could end up with some bad yeast and it could turn it into vinegar. My recommendation is don't store that. Go ahead and process it immediately and turn it into alcohol. Once it's into alcohol, it can't spoil. It can last for years and years. It can last 100 years. I mean, everybody's heard of a bottle of Napoleon brandy that was from God knows when, 38?
Right.
So, yeah, alcohol can last a long, long, long time.
So so you're saying that the beer, we'll say, you've got it in quotations here, the beer, after 3 days of being in there, that could turn into vinegar after the fermentation process is ended?
That's correct. It could. It could be attacked by wild yeast, spores of the air. That's how they basically make vinegar. So they take this and they deliberately open up the top, expose it to air, and that's the start of vinegar. In other words, yeast produces itself through a colony, and these wild spores floating around through the air attack that, and it can turn it. It's not a guaranteed, but it can happen. So I've never taken it beyond 1 week.
Okay. So you've got about a week.
Usually yeast will die or be attacked after it reaches about 20%. Once your beer reaches 20% alcohol level.
Okay. And that happens about day 3?
Yeah, about 3, because if you're using a turbo yeast or champagne yeast, if you're using the same brewer's yeast that most of the beer guys make, you're going to be lucky to get 10%. So you actually do need a specialized yeast that was built for high resistance to alcohol. Some claim as high as 23, 24, 25%.
Wow.
I've never gotten over 20. So I'm sure Wyatt Labs, a very huge company, they're working around the clock to come up with a yeast that will take it above the 20% level.
Wow.
And okay, so let's say you buy a little packet of this yeast. Is this something that you could mix into a bag of flour and create more yeast to hang on to, or is that something that's proprietary and does not?
Nope, that's absolutely correct. Okay. Most of your large brewery companies, such as Coors, Budweiser, their yeast colonies go back 50, 60, 70 years. They want consistency every time you pop a bud. They want it to taste the same as it did a year ago. So they constantly rejuvenate and keep alive their colonies. And yeast is probably the most remarkable organism on the face of the earth. It can multiply itself some 40 million times in a 24-hour period of time. Oh. There's no other substance known to the face of the earth that can do that. It's a remarkable creature, and that is why some people say it's a gift from God.
Well, I won't deny that. I mean, you've got the different biological things that exist in this world that we don't know a tenth of what's going on. Science has only scratched the surface of about, maybe 3 to 4% of the actual knowledge that's out there about these things. But that is incredible. That is the highest exponential equation I think I've ever seen on biological growth. So
it is indeed.
That is awesome. So how do I get started? What's the first step? I'm ready to make some booze and run my vehicle on it. What do I need to do?
Well, the first thing you need to do is to go to what is formerly known as ATF, and it's now the TTB, but go to the ATF website at atf.gov, and you will need to fill out a government form that allows you to make up to 100,000 gallons of ethanol per year in your home. And that form number is TTB, and my reading glasses aren't, so bear with me 1 second, 5110.74. Only the ATF could come up with a ridiculous number like that. I mean, even the IRS has easier form numbers for us, but that's the form number you fill out. And it's a very simple name, address, and draw a little map of where you're going to have your still. Now, they recommend, I'm not sure it's a legal requirement, or nor could they enforce it, but they want you to have it 30 feet away from your residence. They don't want you to blow the place up. A lot of guys are sitting with their still next to their hot water heater that could be natural gas or propane, and what you're making when you make ethanol is rocket fuel. So if you have something that's 195 proof next to an open flame, what possibly could go wrong with that scenario? And so at any way, they're not to make a joke of it. They want it 30 feet away from your house, and they want you to secure it. They want that locked up where the neighborhood kids on the football team aren't scoring 99-1 in the first quarter because they're bulletproof. So you have to protect it from minors getting at it and people stealing it. So and I kind of subscribe to that philosophy too.
Okay, and I agree that right now we're living in a time where there's a lot of rules and regulations and a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of agencies that police. So yeah, I recommend everybody jumps through the government hoops and does what they can right now. Have this stuff on hand, and then you're not going to be limited if the whole thing goes collapsing. So that's my mentality, is do what you can legally while there's laws to abide by. And after that, might makes right, buddy.
Yep. I kind of agree with that philosophy too. I think for the time being, last year there were over 200,000 of these permits submitted to the ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, which has now changed its name. But over 200,000 apps were submitted, and I talked to an ATF agent who told me there is no way that we could possibly worry about somebody out there making some gas for their fuel for their car And we have more important things to look at, such as meth labs and people making bombs and all kinds of other things. So they're really not too concerned. As a matter of fact, the opposite is more in vogue. The U.S. government is encouraging people to make their own fuel. They're encouraging them so much that they will give you 30% back of whatever you spend to buy your still. I hope that people are smart enough to buy it from us at alcoholmakers.com. How about that for a cheap plug?
That was sneaky. You almost got that right by me without me knowing what it was.
Or they could call me personally, Bill Alexander, area code 480-226-2128. I'll take all calls and questions. Now, the government wants you to build your own still, buy your own still, create your own fuel-efficient equipment. And the IRS has a form out for all you accountants out there. It's called Form 8911, Alternate Fuel Vehicle Refueling Property Credit. Now, that's a mouthful. Yeah, what it means is they'll give you 30% of whatever you spend up to $100,000. So that means $30,000 back to you in the form of a credit. Now, this is not depreciation. This is not a tax deduction. This is a credit, dollar for dollar, right off the bottom line of your tax return. It's a big deal. So those that buy a still, and some of these stills can go up to $10,000 if you're going to go commercial. You could literally start a bar with one of these things, or you could start your own gas station, because the average, the dollar amount that's bandied around is about $2 per gallon. Some can make it cheaper, some cost more. It depends on the energy source of getting it up to temperature. And I probably should tell you a little bit about how to make it. The magic number is 173 degrees.
173. And, that stuck with me since my last experiment.
Yep.
But yeah, let's hear that.
Okay, that's the big number. Water boils at 212 degrees at sea level. Alcohol boils and turns to steam at 173. This magic number makes it, gives us the ability to separate water from alcohol. In other words, if we take our beer, our mash, sugar wash, up to 173 degrees, that alcohol goes into steam. We can then run it through a cooling condenser and turn it back into liquid, but that liquid becomes 95.4% pure alcohol.
That's pretty awesome. Now,
it is.
Now, the temperature is important. I understand that, but are you using any sort of chemical help, like a reusable package of zeolite that grabs all the water?
I'm not. All I do is plug it in the wall. I crank up my boiler. It's just like a hot water heater. As a matter of fact, there's some homemade units out there that are actually made with hot water heaters, and put a reflux pipe on top of it, and they're good to go.
Sounds like I'm going to have to explain to the wife why there's no hot water tomorrow.
You would have to. But once again, be very, very careful. The only accidents you ever hear about are those that take too many shortcuts, try to go down to Home Depot, buy the stuff they need off the shelf, not realizing there's a tremendous amount of engineering that goes into making a commercial still. Our stills are a little pricey. They start at $2,500 and they go up to about $10,000. But sometimes you have to wonder, how much is your life worth? Do you want to blow up the place? Do you really want to make a very large production run? And it usually makes up, I've never seen one of our stills that couldn't be paid for itself in 1 year. And that's a pretty strong statement to make.
Yeah, Bill, I mean, I got to see your stills and I'm very interested in this. And you're making it sound so easy. I'm taking sugar from Costco, throwing it in a 55-gallon drum, adding some yeast. I mix it up. 3 days later, I pour it into the still. I turn it on, 173 degrees, and outpours 95.4% pure alcohol.
That's exactly correct.
And is it that easy?
Just that easy. It is totally that easy. People make it complex. There's a lot of guys that will try to sell you all kinds of other things like a thumper keg. Even the moonshiners cannot make as pure of alcohol as we can make. And these guys, if you've ever looked at a moonshine jug, you'll see 3 X's on it. What that means is it's been ran through the still 3 times. The first time it comes out about 40% alcohol. They then take it, run it through the still again. It comes out about 60% alcohol. The third X, the third time they run it, it's about 80. We get 95% first time, every time. Comes right out pure alcohol. The only reason we don't get 100% is because there's a equilibrium that the water and alcohol meet at about 95%. So you have to take it to the next level, which is a vacuum, to get it 100%. And it's no good anyway. The minute you take that alcohol out, it will take the humidity right out of the air. So if you have a day, if you live on the East Coast, and it's 5% humidity, it's going to go right back to 95%. So we have what's called laboratory grade pure alcohol. And it's first time every time. 1 run, 1 X, and it's right up there at 95.
Bill, what is the sugar and the yeast cost me in order to, I know what the still costs, but what does it cost for the sugar and yeast, and how much is that going to produce? What's it going to cost me?
Well, that's a deceptive question because I don't spare any money when I make my alcohol, and I should. The beer guys go out and they make their alcohol because they buy $200 per ton for barley. They then you malt the barley by germinating the seeds. They then use amylase, which is a solution that breaks down the walls of the cell of the barley and turns it into sugar. I just take a shortcut and go directly to sugar. So if I was using barley, I could make my ethanol for about $1 a gallon. The moonshine guys use corn, and same thing. You have to break it down, crush it. They call it cracking the corn, and then turn it into sugar, and then the sugar's turned into alcohol. I just go directly to the sugar, and I pay $34 per 100 pounds at Costco or at Sam's Club. The price ranges a couple of bucks. Every once in a while, it'll go up to $36 per 100. And I've heard of guys paying 50 cents a pound for it at Fry's.
So what is that? How much does that 100 pounds create as far as gallons go of alcohol?
It depends on the efficiency of your yeast. If you're using 10% brewer's yeast, then out of 50 gallons, you're only going to get 5 gallons of alcohol, so you can see the alcohol goes up. But if you're using very effective turbo yeast, which is reported at 20%, and I can verify that it does indeed go to 20%, then 55 gallons becomes 11 gallons of pure alcohol. So you see the numbers, you get twice as much bang for your buck if you use a really incredible yeast. You can use a champagne yeast or turbo yeast, but you need a high-powered yeast.
So what is that yeast cost? Does that run a fortune, or is that fairly inexpensive?
Well, some of us get a little carried away with that, and we create our own laboratories to produce yeast in these colonies. And I have a complete setup with HEPA filters and a microscope, and I have quarters of colonies, and I produce my own yeast. So it costs, really, after the initial little bag costs probably $5-6 at a beer store. Once you start to grow your own yeast, then the cost is zero. I keep it in the refrigerator at about 60 degrees, and I reuse it over and over and over and over. So people, even the beer guys, are getting smart, and they're saving their yeast from a previous run. It looks like it's dead. It's really not. You can. That's why you have conical fermentation tanks where you can drain off the bottom, put it in a glass jar, keep it sanitary, and put it in your refrigerator and use it over and over again. But to answer your question, it would probably, on a 55-gallon drum, you're going to spend probably closer to $10 or $12 on yeast if you went down and bought it. But that would be a starter yeast that you would start probably 24 hours before you added it to your beer or your sugar solution, your sugar wash. So, again, the prices are all over. It's how much time you want to invest in it. I kind of like to take shortcuts, and I cheat, and I just go directly to sugar, and it works quite well for me. Now, a die-in-the-heart beer guy that's listening to this out there is saying, oh, God, no, we could never make beer out of sugar water. But I'm here to tell you, alcohol is alcohol. It's the same thing if it's in beer, wine, or spirits. Alcohol is alcohol, period. There's no difference in taste.
So,
as a matter of fact, I did run a quart of Coors through one of my distillation units and separated the alcohol out, and what was left in the beer was nasty. It was horrible tasting stuff, and I just can't imagine anybody drinking stuff bought in the store, because what we do is purify it. Our units can take seawater and turn it into pure 99.999 pure drinking water.
So they're also, it's a desalinization unit is what you,
that's correct.
Still is also a desalinization. Okay. Now, and correct me if I'm wrong here, because I'm going to get off topic a little bit, but you could actually put crude oil in this and create gasoline too then, couldn't you? Isn't it the same concept?
Yep. Gasoline is a byproduct. It's actually a waste product of crude oil.
Okay.
That's kind of the surprise. But the still that we manufacture could actually, if you had access to crude oil, you could make kerosene, gasoline, avgas, and even the very bottom would be gear lube, very thick, thick oil.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, my father designs plants and works at refineries. I think he spoke with you the other day too and was telling me that a little bit. So, man, this is interesting stuff. But I guess my next question, I know Nick is all into energy, but I don't know a lot of this stuff. So I've got this 95.4% pure alcohol. It comes out. I've got 10 gallons of it. What do I do with it? How do I make something that works on it? Or can you drink it even? What are the uses, Bill?
Well, first off, with a permit that you apply for, that the government gives you permission to make it for your car, they need you to poison it. Unfortunately, they want, at least when you hear E85 bandied around, what that means is 15% gasoline with 85% pure alcohol. And our units will do that. But there is a temptation to drink it. So whenever I crank up my still, I have a 5-gallon gasoline can sitting right there, and I put 1 gallon of gasoline in the bottom. So I'm really making E80, not E85, because when I brew directly into my 5-gallon gas can with a gallon of gasoline there, I have no temptation whatsoever to take a little sip. And that way it's legal. There's no question. If for any reason anybody ever came into when I'm operating my still, the first thing they'd see is a gallon of gasoline as a container. So at that point in time, you could mix it in any car 50-50. As a matter of fact, I don't think people realize that approximately half of all gasoline produced in the United States today has 10% ethyl alcohol already mixed in it. So your car is already running on it. It doesn't require any special modification, doesn't require anything. It's good to go. You can run it up to 50% without advancing the timing, without opening the ports or the jets if you happen to have a carburetor that's really old. But the jets, opening up the jets of your fuel injection. And the computers there's in all cars today, there's a thing called an oxygen sensor. And ethyl alcohol, I do too, because they always go out and cost me $100. But what happens is the oxygen sensor recognizes that you're burning pure ethyl alcohol, and it tells the computer, hey guys, we're running a different fuel here. Now what do we do? So the computer will advance the timing of your car about 3 degrees, and it will open up the jets in your fuel injection, and it'll run fine. The only problem you have now, how to lie with statistics, the only downside is that on a cold morning, it's very, very difficult to start. Now, I run my still off of a generator, and I power my generator off of ethyl alcohol. But on cold mornings, I start it with gasoline, and once it's running, I have a little petcock that switches it over to pure ethyl alcohol. Once it's running, it runs fine. So the only downside of full disclosure is it's hard to start on a cold morning. Not much of a problem out here in Arizona.
Wow, that's really cool. So any of these little generators that you use for camping, that sort of stuff, can run on these things?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now,
Absolutely.
the other thing, you're saying you're using a generator, so all of your stills are electric.
That's correct.
Okay.
And the reason is, again, we were talking earlier about a hot water heater and open flame. These were originally made for propane or natural gas, so you could set it on an open flame. But the Spaceship Challenger blew all to hell in a rowboat simply because of an O-ring. Stills have O-rings. There are seals. If there's ever a leak of the steam that's coming out, it's highly flammable. You got a flamethrower on your hands. So we have did everything possible to make this safe as we can for the public. We don't want anybody blowing themselves up. We don't want anybody hurt or burned. So we converted all of our stills to electric that can be run off of a generator, can be run, we can hardwire it right into your house. We use 5,500 watt heating elements that you find in hot water heaters. There's
How many of those are in the still?
In small stills, 26 gallon, there's only one. On our 55 gallon stills, there's two. We take it up to 11,000 watts on a 55 gallon still, and we run at 220. On the smaller stills, when 220 is nothing more than this, your stove or your dryer.
Right.
As a matter of fact, both sides of it, it's just 220 is nothing more than 110 twice coming in on each side.
Yeah.
So we run our small stills 26 gallons. We actually do wire those 220, and then we have a rheostat on our control box, and we can dial it down to 110 once we bring it up to temperature. Once we hit that 173, we crank everything down and just let it simmer. We don't want to go anywhere near 212 because you'll mix the water right back into the alcohol, and that's not what you want. You want the separation.
So, what kind of, so if I want to go out and buy I love that little 26 gallon still. I go out and buy it. I've got my alcohol. I'm running my generators on it. If I run into problems, is there a big community out there, or, what's your availability? I'm sure you're not the only one supporting these things. So where do I find out more information on this in general? Is there, a community out there that I can turn to? There's
some great pioneers, and one of the greatest of all was a guy by the name of David Bloom, who was actually at the Prepper Fest. I didn't get a chance to hear one of his seminars because I was too busy peddling my units and my wares, but he did come by before the show, and we spent a little bit of time, and he's one of the pioneers. So there's a book out there by David Bloom called Alcohol Can Be a Gas, and it is an absolute fascinating read. And he is truly one of the pioneers. And I was fortunate enough, he brought me over a book and personally autographed it, and to Bill, another pioneer. So I'm pretty proud of that. That's one of my favorite books in my collection too, by the way. But there are a number of books that can be bought on Amazon.com. And another way to bring it up and cut through the chase is the Moonshiners have done all of the work for us for the last 50 years. Those guys were really the guys that were on the cutting edge of technology. They kept making it better, better, better. So if you go to Amazon.com and type in moonshine, you're going to have 50 to 100 books come up. And then if you go to Google and just type in ethanol, you can have news groups, discussion groups. There happens to be, just in the beer community alone, there's over 11,000 clubs coast to coast. That's a lot that are dedicated to helping other people enter into the business of making homemade beer. Now, spirits, and there's the wine industry also, but the area of spirits, it's a relatively new platform that people are coming in and making that 200 gallons. Now, ethanol has been made for, Henry Ford was the first pioneer because his Model T was built to run on ethyl alcohol. And it's an amazing concept. It was, Rockefeller talked about it and paid him millions of dollars to stop putting a switch in his Model Ts that would switch it from gasoline to ethanol. So, I mean, if you really want to talk to the pioneer, of course, Henry Ford's been dead for 50 years now. But he was the guy who really started it with automobiles. But there are news groups all over the place. There are clubs, and use Google and just Google it, ethanol, and it'll open up a whole new world to you. Or you can call me at Bill Alexander, 480-226-2128, and I'll answer any questions you have.
That's awesome, Bill. Thank you so much. Oh, I had one other question I was going to ask you. Now it slipped my mind. My goodness. I was focusing on the Henry. It's funny you mentioned Henry Ford, and we'll discuss this a little bit later, but right about the time he mentioned he was going to launch the first set of vehicles, the mass production of vehicles that ran on alcohol, he had an 18-gallon tank. And about that time, Prohibition came out. And this is Mr. Conspiracy jumping on the mic here, but what are the chances of Prohibition not being a religious-driven thing, but more Big Oil's first move in government?
Good possibility. And I've always said if the grid goes down, if the government fails, if there's problems, in my opinion, ethyl alcohol is going to be currency. In other words, if you, when all bets are off and there are no licenses needed and there really is no government, you can make 5 gallons of this stuff in a matter of an hour, and you have trading material for eggs, for milk. And I always look at these gold coins. Some of the preppers say, "Oh, Bill, you need to buy these Krugerrands," or "Bill, you got to get a maple leaf." And I'm sitting here looking, they're very beautiful, by the way. But I'm wondering, how do you get change? I mean, if I pull into a gas station now, what do I do? So if I'm the only guy in town that's got gasoline, that can run a generator, that can run a car, can run your lights, and I have 5 gallons of that, I can assure you I can get ammunition if I need it. I can get eggs if I need it. I can get bread. So I have something that's very, it's a commodity. It's currency. And I can make 5 gallons an hour all day long with my little still, with that little 26-gallon one.
Well, Bill, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have to wrap it up. And we really appreciate it. A lot of information here.
Yeah, what's your website one more time, Bill?
It's called alcoholmakers.com.
Okay.
And again, my phone number is area code 480-226-2128.
All right, we will get that listed with our show notes when we put the podcast up, and I really appreciate it. Again, you've got some amazing quality stills. I haven't seen anything quite like that, and I'm really excited to talk to you about maybe purchasing one here in the next few months.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it. And thanks so much for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Bye-bye.
Man, I'm ready to go get some booze on after that one.
I'm telling you, I'm making a Costco run and go pick up a couple 100 pounds of sugar, and you can store sugar, can't you?
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure that they've used it in preservatives.
I know, because he said you can't store the wash.
Yeah, because the spores will turn it into vinegar.
But I bet you could store the sugar animals want to get in it, so you probably got to be careful. But
well, I mean, 5-gallon buckets that latch up, you just fill them full of the sugar. Or 55-gallon drums.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can just buy it in 55-gallon drums.
So here's a question: would it be morally wrong to go to the Mormon cannery and pick up a couple 1,000 pounds of sugar for alcohol purposes?
Well, you're not using it to drink.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know.
So why would it be? Morals don't need to enter into this. That I thought Mormons wanted to be prepared.
Yeah, I know.
They're like some of the
first
preppers around, so.
Exactly. In fact,
listen to the non-Mormon lecture the Mormon, huh?
I'm trying to make a joke and you sit here and burn me. Thanks, Don. Thank you.
I can edit.
But you won't. We know this. You pull it out of the main show, it'll end up with a freaking blooper reel.
I edit all the stupid things I say.
Oh yeah, thank you. Then I look like the horse's rear.
Bill, man, that's some great information. I can't. Guys, go check out WeGrowOurs.com. Look at the episode. You're going to see that pictures of those stills and link to his webpage. These things are works of art.
They are
really
beautiful. Beautiful.
So, yeah, we will get that up there. And, speaking of WeGrowOurs.com, Facebook.com/WeGrowOurs. Please go hit that little like button on there. We need some love on Facebook. We got all these Twitter thingies going on all the time. I got nobody on Facebook showing us the love. So what is that about?
I don't know, man. Maybe Facebook doesn't love you.
I don't think anybody sees the posts on that thing anymore anyway, so.
I don't know. We'll work on it. Speaking of awesome posts.
Yeah.
Let's do the plug of the week.
All right. So this week's plug of the week is Imperfectly Happy. She is a local blogger that we know, and Nick, you know her pretty well because she's helped you out for a long time, right?
That's right. The owner of Imperfectly Happy is Tiffany Davis. And I met her one day. She was looking to get into rabbits, and we sat down and had a conversation and basically came to the conclusion that I didn't know much about marketing, and she was giving me some great advice, and she wanted cages and rabbits. And I said, well, why don't you do my marketing for me, and I'll hook you up with cages and rabbits. And then she said, well, I also want this. And I said, okay, well, we'll do this. And then after a while, she ended up being my full-time marketing consultant, social media person, runner thing. And she does have a downfall. She has a vice that's very apparent.
What's that?
She's addicted to coffee.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah.
So if you ever swing by the Hostel Hair Facebook page, any morning, every morning, pretty much guaranteed every morning, there's going to be something about how the marketer is not quite out of bed. Even though she's out of bed, she needs coffee.
Yes.
So.
And some pretty cool memes. That's what those little pictures are?
Memes. Yes.
Yeah, about coffee.
I
enjoy the little memes about coffee. So yeah, Tiffany, you do a wonderful job. And she's helping us out with the Homestead Conference.
That's right.
She's doing well with that. So don't forget, people, homesteadconference.com, and check that out. Go get your tickets. We're April 5th and 6th. We're coming up on this pretty darn quick.
Yeah, it'll be pretty much a week away when you guys are hearing this.
Yeah.
So, holy Toledo, it's time to go.
Yeah, I gotta get all my PowerPoints together and everything. And
yeah, I'm excited. It's
gonna be a blast. I can't wait to learn, so.
Yeah, the class on rabbits is going to just barely review a little bit of Rabbits 101 and really get into the nitty gritty on how to raise rabbits efficiently.
Yeah.
Not just this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. There'll be some of that for those that have not.
Well, yeah, and Nick, you and I with aquaponics, we do our 101 courses, and a lot of times we do those for free.
That's right.
And we go out and we do, the prepper shows. We go out and give free classes to get people excited about this. That's not what we're doing this time at this Homestead Conference. We are getting, like, for me, I'm getting into the cycling process, what it takes. We're getting into some serious expectations. We're getting into filters and filter design and what you need to be doing to get your system going, to get it off on the right foot. We're not talking about why you might want to get into aquaponics. We're talking about the nitty gritty of getting that system together, putting it together. 2-day event. So, you guys go home, design your systems, bring it back. We'll take a look at that. Nick, I know you're getting into that rabbit stuff a lot more in depth than you normally do. So it's going to be fun. And I'm looking forward to all the other instructors because I'm really going to learn a lot.
Oh my gosh. Justin Roner, we've got the owner of, iAgriscape.
Yeah, he was on the show. Yeah.
That's right. And that would normally be a $300 class. So he's agreed to do this on the cheap for us. So,
yeah.
So when you're looking at that ticket thinking, man, that's a lot of money, just remember it could be a whole lot more.
Absolutely. Any other events coming up? We talked about the Jackalope Freedom Festival and the aquaponics thing.
Yes, and I think on the live show we talked about the Prescott event.
Yes.
But Lance Baker's putting on the Arizona Survivalist / Prepper Expo.
Right.
And that is at Tim's Toyota Center in Prescott Valley. So all you Arizona residents and those that wish to drive in from the surrounding states and beyond, this will be a good one. Great thing about Prescott Valley is there's a lot of like-minded people up there. They come from everywhere to go to Prescott Valley because the weather's nice. It's slightly cooler up there than it is in Phoenix. And it's spread out, so you're not right on top of your neighbors and you don't have the same urban mentality.
Right. I've always enjoyed the shows up there.
There's a whole lot more camouflage jackets and lifted trucks up there, so I feel a little bit more at home.
That's right. Now, I'm also going out to Portal, Arizona. So I don't know if we have any listeners out near Portal, New Mexico area, but I know it's Saturday, but April 12th, I think is the date. I will be in Portal putting on an aquaponics class. We're going to do our 101 class with a little bit of extras where I'm going to talk about integration with livestock. I'm going to touch on rabbits. Nick's the expert. He's not going to be there, but talk about quail a little bit and how we integrate that, even ducks and chickens and everything else. But it's going to be Nice. It's going to be mainly an aquaponics class, the one-on-one class with a little bit extra thrown on top. So if you guys are anywhere out near Tucson, this is actually a pretty far drive from Tucson too, but out
really?
near Portal and the New Mexico, Arizona border down there off I-10. Please come on out. I'll put a link on our website at the We Grow Ours in the show notes to that event as well. And, so great
Awesome.
show today, man. Bill was amazing. I got some really good info and I'm excited about brewing my own alcohol for my car.
Yeah, for your car. Car's gonna get drunk.
Yeah. Well, apparently I just dump it in the tank the way it is. So,
Yeah. I mean, what's cool is,
and I can store it.
yeah, alcohol store's great. In fact, it gets better with age. But what I'm excited about is the fact that he straight up said it. He's like, look, you buy sugar, that's the shortcut. But there's other ways to bring it down cheaper. And what we didn't touch on is any biomass that is made of cellulose can be turned to starch that can be turned to sugar. So anything ferments and there is enough sugar in stuff. It's a hydrocarbon. Sugar's a hydrocarbon. So if you can get that out of your biomass, you can run your vehicle on the alcohol you produce from it. Now granted, you're not going to have that same conversion ratio. This is coming from previous knowledge, not all from Bill. You're not going to have the same conversion ratio of 5 gallons per 50 when you're using grass clippings and wood chips, but
Can you still use the same still?
oh yeah,
Because I know he was saying it's a desalinization unit as well.
all this still does is heats up to a specified temperature,
Right.
and that specified temperature, that
173.
173, is the boiling point of alcohol.
So if there's alcohol in there, it'll come out.
Exactly.
So, and it is that's okay. So, I mean, this is pretty cool because you could use that still to generate 5 gallons of fuel to run a generator to clean all your water.
Exactly.
You can actually, cause you can use it as a desalinization unit. I'm assuming you can use it to get other impurities out. It's basically distilled water. So,
Imagine that.
imagine that. That's kind of cool. So all sorts of uses for this. Check out his website. What's his website, Nick?
It's alcoholmakers.com.
Yeah. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at WeGrowOurs, Facebook.com/WeGrowOurs, and WeGrowOurs.com. Check out the show notes and blog. You'll see some other information in there. And we redesigned the webpage, so go take a look. Woo! Woo! And show us some love on Facebook. Dang it.
Yeah, come on, show up.
PrepperBroadcasting.com. Thank you for everything you do, Glenn, G-Man. That was a fun live show. We're going to have to do that again for sure. And guys, Mondays, there is a live chat, Monday 9 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Arizona time. That would be 8 p.m. Central time.
Well, thank you for joining us. We'll wrap it up this week and prepare for next week. But in the meantime, stay safe out there. Stay classy.
Nice. Absolutely. So let's welcome him on. Bill, how you doing? Or Bill, welcome. Or hi, Bill. All right, I'll stop now. Stop. We grow.
Wow, Don.
Yeah.
That's just awesome.
Yeah. See, that gets edited.
Aw. FB, baby.
And PrepperBroadcasting.com
That was
Mondays.
FB, by the way. That was not a me at the end. Just. Please edit that.
Wow. Where am I going now? So I think I got all that right, but Prepper. I can't talk tonight. Would you just finish?
Seems Don still has up and working, and he is partaking of the product thereof.
Yeah, I wish.